Hello, listeners. Are you a geek? Do you like podcasts? If you answered yes, then come on down and listen to Geek Wars, a trivia game show podcast where 12 teams will compete to prove once and for all who is the greatest geeks of them all. Come play along as our competitors struggle to answer questions like: which villain is known as the World Eater?
I have an idea, but I don't think it's right.
What is the first ever created Pokemon?
Oh, I literally have no idea.
What is the name of the blaster that was made famous by the smuggler Han Solo?
Gosh, I'm drawing blanks here.
Season 1 has players from Battle Bards, Cypher Speak, DMnastics, Going in Blind, Lining Up Pod, Magic Item Review, Party of One, The RPG Academy, Sneak Attack, We're So Bad at Adventuring, Whelmed, The Young Justice Files, Zero's Talking Heroes, and more. So what are you waiting for? Download and listen to Season 1 and be prepared because Season 2 is coming. Thanks for listening, and now enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing God, killing characters, and lowering the egos of all other people at the table. I'm one of your hosts, Dungeon Master Mitch.
And I'm your other host, DM Neil, aka Joke Maniac.
And we have an awesome episode for you today. We are going to be talking about Secret Societies, but don't tell anyone. And we have an awesome guest joining us. We have Satine Phoenix here to talk about Secret Societies with us. But Neil, before we get into this awesome segment of the meat, we have some 5-star reviews.
We do. And this one comes from a lot of different places, and I have a lot of questions after it, but I will read it and then we can go from there. And this one is from DNetsam, and they gave us the 5-star review of Limber Up. I assume that's a reference to DMnastics. I recently enjoyed my first experience as a DM. Unfortunately, my players did not. Fortunately, though, they shared their feedback, fueling a hunger to fill my skill gaps. I downloaded an episode from 10 different DM-focused podcasts, and this one stood out. I have laughed, I have cried, and I pulled my car over to frantically write down ideas. Please keep the content coming. We will.
I just pictured like busy highway and just car ripping, like cutting off several people.
I also envision the idea that they don't have a writing utensil but their car is dirty, so they just like scribble notes in their rear window. So thank you, DNetsam, and we will definitely keep the content coming.
Our next one comes from Phosphorus, and it is entitled One of the Best, 5 stars. This is hands down one of my favorite podcasts. It's a must for DMs of all levels, but I'd suggest it to anyone who likes to challenge themselves creatively. I look forward to new episodes. I flag older episodes for multiple listens, and I've discovered new podcasts that I love through their guests. Can't recommend it enough. Thank you so much, Phosphorus. We appreciate that awesome review.
And I'm happy that we are also getting you to listen to more great content creators. So for this last review, we are going to head up to Canada, and it comes from Photo Dudette, who gave the 5-star review. Great info. This podcast is full of great ideas for DMs and is fun to listen to. Boom, done. Thank you, Photo Dudette, and we will keep on giving you great ideas.
Spread that news in Canada about the show. And with that, let's head to the meat.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meats?
The flat meat's back on the menu, boys.
So today on The Meet, we are going to be talking to an amazing guest who we are beyond excited to have with us, and that is none other than Satine Phoenix, who is co-creator of Maze Arcana, host of GM Tips on Geek and Sundry, DM for Sirens of the Realms on twitch.tv/D&D, a DM Guild adept with some truly amazing people who we have also had on the show, creator of Celebrity Charid D20, and I'm going to add a couple that she does not know that I'm adding. Illustrator for New Praetorians, which is amazing. Go check it out on comicsology.com. And one of the celebrity DMs for D&D in a Castle, of which I will be attending.
Oh yeah, those are all the things. Those are many of the things. They're all.
No, I was going to say, don't dare say all. Don't you dare.
So Satine, welcome to the show. Neil, you can put your scroll of introduction away now.
It's a Word doc. I'll close it down and get to the outline now.
I'm deeply humbled. Thank you very much.
And we are just as humbled to have you here to talk about Secret Societies. But before we do, we have a couple interview-style questions like we do with all of our guests.
So Satine, if anybody doesn't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am Satine. I'm a very nice person who likes to play. And what does that mean? That means I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I like to work out with friends. I like to write stories with friends. I like to do photo shoots, and basically a modern storyteller Renaissance human. Yeah, pretty much. I'm your normal Renaissance girl.
That's true.
I've been playing D&D since 1995. I've been reading about it since 1988.
Man,
a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh.
It's actually really cool. I spend most of my time, and I say most of my time, my business partner / best friend and I spent all of last year going to all the D&D conventions and tabletop conventions, and doing live streams with Dungeons and Dragons and Geek and Sundry, doing more than just Dungeons and Dragons. We played Dread, which was pretty cool. Ivan Van Norman was the storyteller for that. Just started playing Vampire again. Haven't touched it since 1996. Back then it was LARPing. Now it's tabletop. But I actually LARPed for the first time since 96 about 2 weeks ago. So fun.
She's back, LARP community.
Yeah, I can't get enough. So I'm basically gaming almost every day.
It's the dream.
Yeah, that's real.
We'll give you a moment. And in that moment, you can think about telling us all of the awesome things that you're currently working on, and I will always add the caveat that you are allowed to tell us.
So the Guild Add-Ups, we have so many amazing things happening. Rudy and I are putting together some of the content that we made for our 2017 D&D streams. So we had a show that called Fury's Reach, and it was 2 games, but he and I were both Dungeon Master each table, but the stories kind of went together. Each group was after the same item. And so, mine was on Tuesdays, his was on Wednesdays, and then we would go back and forth through Chol, and it was insane. Like, I don't even know how we kept up with that pace, because it's pretty hard. When just running your own game is hard, but then running 2 games is really, really hard. But we invented some really cool stuff, like, I don't know if you guys are playing Tomb of Annihilation, but in Chol, there's like the Grand Souk. So we designed all the store owners and stores and what the inside of the souks look like, and we did the strip mall ziggurats and came up with mechanics for what happens when you walk into a strip mall ziggurat and how you can get lost and the kind of adventures you can have in there. So we're going to be putting that out hopefully within the next 6 months. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, and we're working on some secret things with Dungeons and Dragons that we can't talk about, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But that's just on that end with D&D. The other thing that I'm doing this year, I started it last year, but everything just kind of got swept away with amazingness. But I'm writing a book called Mirror into the Maze, and it's called Mirror into the Maze, Reflections of a Life Well Played. And it's kind of an autobiography and kind of a workbook on not self-help, but it's on how D&D helped me through PTSD, because I had really severe 10 years of childhood trauma that I didn't even start processing until I was about 28. And so this is basically me looking back what D&D has meant to me since I was 8 years old and how I used it without even realizing it to become the character that I would design. Like these strong, fast, smart, witty people that I kind of became because I was like, well, I'm creating these characters, but I can be that in real life. And I've done Spartan races, and I was a fitness model, and I was the Amazon, and I was the sorceress, and I became all these characters that helped me become the person I am today. So this book is a kind of a workbook. Read it for entertainment. Read it because you might have PTSD, and it might help. It's been incredible doing the research on this. There's so many people excited about PTSD and and how theater and gaming helps with that. It's really interesting because my PTSD comes from childhood trauma, and Rudy's comes from him being in the military, a field medic in the military. So, when we met, we were like, oh, we are so similar, which is really weird because our traumas are so different. We actually know, we interact better because of our what we have in common in that area. So there's some interviews with him in there too, where I'm like, okay, this was how I used this. Let's take a look at the male perspective from a military background. And I'm sure I'll be interviewing a lot more people over the next year, but that's pretty much, that's going to be a really, it's not slow, but it's a very drawn out process because of all the conventions that we're doing. We're going to GaryCon, we're going to Origins, Gen Con, D&D in a Castle. Sirens of the Realms is coming back on twitch.tv/D&D on Tuesdays in March, and that goes through June. That's really great. I'm so amazed at these girls, I've got really fun performers who know how to be on camera, who love playing. They just love playing so much, and they write songs with their spells, and it's just super silly fun. And they allow me to, I got in a car accident a few years ago, so I have really bad brain damage, and I just forget rules. I forget hide. I forgot hide for an entire episode. And one of the girls is like, I think it's like this. I'm like, no, that sounds OP. We're going to throw that out the window. They're like, okay. And so they don't rule lawyer me, and they keep it fun and fresh, and that's really great. Maze Arcana has been building out our little network of shows, and one of the shows is called Maze Plays, and that's Rudy playing video games, which is really cool because they're all games that our friends made. Like Joe Moduera made Battle Chasers, so we're running that right now, and we're going to have him on, which is really great. And then we have a brand new show, a noir in Eberron, in the lower Duras of Sharn. So if anybody's a fan of Eberron, we're the only group that's allowed to live stream Eberron. So if you want to get your Eberron fix, go check us out. The new show is called Myth Maker Society. And if you go to mazearcana.com, you can sign up and join the Myth Maker Social Club. That comes out March 21st. And yeah, we'll be at Gamehole Con later this year. And I'm just doing a whole lot of dungeon mastering online for patrons and conventions for VIPs and stuff. And that's all I can remember off the top of my head right now.
So your schedule is pretty open, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm often bored. Yeah. Trying to get back into the regimen that I had when I was making comics, because comics was interesting. It's 16 hours a day for about 3 to 4 months, and that's no joke. That's 6 to 7 days a week. But I was still able to wake up and work out and come back and get that rhythm. So I'm trying to figure out how to run multiple businesses and also keep my sanity. Yeah, routine's really important.
The book sounds extremely interesting to me. I think, as people who are so involved with D&D and talking to people constantly that love D&D and role-playing games in general, I think we often forget that the outside world, the world that doesn't know tabletop role-playing game and LARPing and all that kind of stuff, still, even though we are in a time where being a geek is way more accepted and cool now than it was years ago, I still think that the outside is still looking in a lot and going, oh,
that's weird, and there's there's negative aspects to that, and looking at it in that kind of sense, just, oh, it takes up so much of your time, and you're just so, you're being antisocial, which is completely wrong, because it's a total
It's the
social
opposite.
thing.
Yeah.
Or even if you go to that 70s satanic panic, and people still like, ooh, Dungeons and Dragons, scary. But as somebody on the inside, I think this is what like your book sounds like it's focusing on, is there's so much healthy growing and learning and benefits to tabletop role playing. And it sounds, I'm excited to, when that book comes out, be able to get that and read that, because I'm excited to hear
Thank
those
you.
stories.
Well, it's really interesting because people don't realize how, like, the variety of people that are healed by play, right? All my research so far is like, okay, so you have PTSD. Very simply, go to your local theater group and join theater. Well, I love that, but that is time consuming. Like, that's more time consuming.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, go to a table once a week and make new memories. And I think that is the most important thing. Being almost 40 and having tons and I have thousands of friends now. It's incredible. It's a lot of work, but it's amazing to meet so many people. And a lot of people I noticed are like, back in my 20s and back in high school and all these glory day things. And they seem really stuck, right? And stuck in these memories. And the thing about D&D is you're constantly making new memories. And that right there is so incredibly healthy. It keeps you young. It keeps you creative. And I honestly think that that's like the key to eternal life, or at least living a really long time.
Yep. And I think the most exciting thing is to watch our generation get old and be in homes and talk about our D&D games.
Yeah.
It's really it's what I'm most excited for. I'm ready to be old and talk about all the games that I played with the amazing people that were in them.
So before we jump into our discussion on Secret Societies, we have one more question for you, Satine. This one's a surprise question. You knew that a surprise question was coming, but had no idea what it was, of course. So this one comes from one of our Patreon dragons, DM Pax. And what DM Pax asks is, if you could have an item that granted flight, what kind of item would it be and why? And he gave the example of, you have the brooms, you have the magic carpet, winged shoes. What would be Satine Phoenix's item of choice?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, DM Pax, for your question. And, oh man, it would probably be like a cool harness, like a bolero jacket of flying or something, or high heels, because I really love high heels. Maybe like knee-high boots of flying, where you can I could actually run full speed and then fly in high heels. Like, I'm talking like 5 or 6 inch heels and platforms. Yeah, like that, it would probably be that. A bolero jacket, or like some rhinestoned out black leather, or like gold trim or something. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, DM Pax, and thank you, Satine, for answering that.
So we are going to now jump straight into Secret Societies, how to put them in your homebrew game, how to just use them, and some great ideas from our brains to yours. So the question that we kind of want to throw out first to all of us is, what is the purpose of a secret society in a homebrew world, or in rather any game that you're playing?
Secret societies are cool. I look at them like just another layer of whatever town or city or world that you're playing in. And you have your churches, you have your kinds of people, but the secret societies prove that there's another group within this that all have the same train of thought and purpose, that are doing something else. And it's not necessarily bad, but they're just doing something else that excludes other people because of the value they put on this idea. And you can use that in a couple different ways. You can use that as, like maybe it's the nobility use it, or maybe it's the anti-nobility that use it to get their point across. You can have multiple secret societies that all have different reasons, and maybe they clash. Those are just a couple ideas.
I think that one of the things that you said that resonates with me is that don't think about secret societies as all bad. Like, they can be there for protection, for good. In fact, I think protection is a huge reason when I was thinking through secret societies. Why would a secret society exist? And it can be protection on all different kinds of levels. Maybe they protect these powerful artifacts that, if they were to fall into the wrong hands, could mean world devastating things. And so they protect them, they keep them secret, they keep them safe, as is the saying. They could also be a noble class, as far as a governing secret class. And, you think of the Illuminati or something. So, these secret societies that are, the ideas, well, they're actually controlling everything, but we don't know that they're using other governing forces as puppets. But you could also have the other end, like you were talking about, where it's a secret society that the lower class has made a group of, and this society could be watching for the governing forces to step out of line, and that's when they come into action, and they take action because they're there to protect the people. It could be a secret society of assassins that will step in when the governing forces start using their power against the ones that they're supposed to protect.
It's interesting that, one person might belong to two different societies, right? The crossover might be really interesting. You can play with that a lot. How they influence each other, I think, is another thing. You have one town and one secret society, but what if you have one town and three different ones? How do they interact, and what are they there for? What's the purpose of having it in the first place? Because they're all created because somebody wants something. Knowing what people in your town want brings it to life for sure. Everybody, your characters, your NPCs, every single person, creature wants something. Even a monster wants something.
I think the biggest thing that Secret Society does for me in my mind is add another dimension. If you don't have any sort of secret society in your world, and don't get me wrong, that's totally fine, but there's just a different dimension that your game will have. There is the known good, there is the known evil, there's no questions. With a secret society, though, that's where you can start to add these really interesting layers, because, Mitch, you already brought it up, that in the lower class builds this system of assassins. Not everyone is going to agree with that. But is that inherently good? Is it inherently bad? And that's for your players to decide, of course. But I just love the amount of complexity you can add by adding secret societies to a game.
Yeah. Neil, I liked what you said about don't feel bad if you don't have any secret societies in your world yet. The thing is, you do. Your NPCs just haven't told you about it yet. So they're there. Those secret societies are there. They might just be secret from you, the world builder, already. So some secret societies might be about hoarding, like knowledge. I think knowledge is a big one, whether it's, just secrets, history, special types of magic. And as you are the world builder here, you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're hoarding that? Is it a protection thing? Is it a power thing? Is it just because we've been keeping these secret and you need to be part of our group for thousands of years, and that's just how it has always been.
I love the idea that there's a group of farmers.
Yes.
Like they're super quiet, but all of a sudden something comes to town or somebody starts getting a little crazy, and then the PTA jumps in, secret PTA jumps in and tries to, rally forces and figure things out, and hiring people. The different intensity too. Like, is it a casual secret society? Is it a highly ritualistic secret society? What are the practices? What is the purpose?
I can't get out of my mind that the group of farmers are called the Scythes, because that's the tool that they would use. And it's terrifying, and it makes me so happy. So, kind of a question, and we've danced around it a little bit, but how do we introduce the PCs to secret societies? I mean, it's either going to be subtle or it's not, depending on where your players have decided to insert themselves into the ideas and inner workings of those societies.
In Sirens, I used a bookmark. It was in a book that had dropped, and it was the color of the bookmark, the patterns, and the way it was cut. And the girls figured it out, and it was really cool.
So good.
Dropping in symbols, perceiving people doing a thing, doing a pattern thing. Maybe a handshake's a little off. You're like, that's strange. Why would they do those things? Handshakes, clothing, symbols on walls and on strange artifacts, or just like places you wouldn't normally see them. It depends on what the secret society is, but also maybe overhearing somebody say phrases odd. If you're playing D&D, it's, I would weave in with the factions, right? Maybe a faction is associated or has a link to a secret society, and that kind of gives the players more draw to that because they're already linked to their faction. Nobility, people in the city that they're meeting up with, maybe the local police, the bakers, like something that where you're in contact with somebody and they say a thing that you don't recognize, and it makes it curious. And you don't have to be really blatant about it, but like kind of keeping it there on the edges for a while. I would kind of dabble. I would kind of show them one here, show them a symbol there, and they're like, wait a minute, there's a pattern. In this town, there are things that don't make sense. Now I'm going to go and hunt that. Now, is it like you're making the campaign looking into the secret society? Do you want that to be a primary thing? Or are you looking at it as just something that exists as a thing that they could be interested in the future? Like you really want to think about that when you're kind of offering up this information to your players.
And when you drop clues like that in, whether it's a bookmark that you're describing to your players, they open up this book and you start to describe the bookmark. I mean, that's something that players are usually going to go, why is she describing this bookmark? There's something about this. And I have never met a player that would hear something like that and go, whatever, I'm not going to look into that more. Like, there's an interest. There's I need to know more. Like, put that on I need to find out more about this strange bookmark. Or, as you said, like,
it was
a
the
handshake.
smell.
Or it was the smell. Like, it had
it
a
was
scent
the
to
smell
it.
of the... Yeah, because I think she opened it. It was like, how to cut meat or something really silly. And then she's like, that's weird. And they're looking at the thing. And then the bookmark smelled interesting, like walnut. And they were like, oh, that's a thing. And so they kept it on them, and then they noticed somebody else in a tavern that had something similar, and so they started asking questions about it. I thought they were very clever about.
Yeah, one little
I think I
detail.
invented it on the spot, honestly. Because
Those are
one
the
of the girls
best.
couldn't show up, and I'm like, okay, so now there's a secret society,
Yeah.
and they're doing this, and
But you threw it out there
I
for
won't.
them, and they bit, and they were interested just by one little detail. And it's funny because in the real world, if you opened a book and you had that happen to you, most people would just not even think about it. But as you, the DM, are kind of dropping that little clue on, most of your players will pick up that something, there's something here, unless Satine just really wanted to describe the book as having a walnut smell, which could be the case, but I feel like there's something else here. Maybe I need to look into it. And you can be as blatant with that or as subtle as you want to. I liked the you said something about eating, and I just thought of maybe there's this secret if you take from the cheese plate first and then from the bread plate and then drink your wine, you're signifying to the other person that you are part of this group. But normal people aren't going to pick up on that. And so you could go really subtle or really blatant. Like you said, possibly dependent on, do you want this to be a main goal, or is this a side quest that you kind of okay, let's see if they figure it out. Let's see if, they actually figure this out. And if they do, great, we can explore that. And if they don't, it's okay.
Yeah.
So kind of the idea that came to my mind is the difference between it's a secret society that happens to exist and they function in the same area that your players are in, almost having a DC for perception that's a static 20, 25, somewhere in that top range, because they're a secret society. That's what they do. But then if you want it to be something that they find out, have that progressively drop the more that your players are starting to interact with it. So they've seen, and as an example, the bookmark. They've been in a place where for some reason there's always someone wearing this bright red in almost every situation that they're in. But like that wouldn't be weird, but it seems to be every situation that they're in. And like progressively bring that down till essentially they have to figure it out and then continue your story.
I think there can also be, when you're wondering, how do I introduce this to my PC, asking yourself, there can be different levels of public knowledge depending on which secret society you're talking about. This secret society might be so secret that only those who are involved with it know about its existence. Or you could go, a step closer to public knowledge and say this secret society, like there's rumors, there's stories, there's legends that surround the secret society. And there's a degree of some people believe that it exists. Some people think it's just stories. Some people think, oh, I think it did exist, but it's not existing anymore. Or you can just go full on like, oh, everybody knows that this secret society exists. The problem is we don't know why. We don't know what they're hiding. There's stories about it. And we also, of course, have no idea how to become part of the secret society. But it could just be out there that this is something that is public knowledge. And you could also, because it's a secret society, drop a lot of false hints and false clues and false facts about this secret society.
Good and bad. So you've got one guy who's like, praise the secret society, and the other guy is like, conspiracy theorist. Like,
yes.
Oh man, I heard these guys do this thing, and I saw them, or I knew somebody that knew a guy who watched this ritual, and it was like this goat thing, and really it was like, just some farmer wanted to give his kid a goat for their birthday or something like that,
Yes, you
not
can't
that
go
I give
wrong
people
without
goats for their
dropping
birthday,
a conspiracy theorist into your games. You can't go wrong, especially with that accent right there.
Yeah, it's really interesting, this idea of secret societies, because dungeon mastering is a dance, knowing when to give your players information. And we can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but it's really important to know what your purpose is for putting them in. Are you putting it in because it's really cool? That's cool. But how are your players going to react to it? So giving and then taking and then pushing and pulling the story a little bit. And the moment you provide that first clue, your players are going to want to turn in that direction. So you have to figure out it's like a side quest, right? Do they go, you pace when that side quest happens based on how you tell them. And I say this in a not logical way and not mechanical way. It's more a story feeling, energy, noticing when they are kind of tired of just dungeon crawling or tired of traveling in this direction. You're like, okay, I'm going to drop this in because it's going to just massage and maneuver the story in this way, and then I'm going to come back. So that's just how I look at, storytelling, I guess.
No, I mean, I feel like we've had to have said it before. I mean, it's the idea of knowing when, it's like you said, it's a dance, knowing when it is or isn't okay for them to know something. Mm-hmm. Like if at the very beginning you allow them to roll to see the secret society and you're not okay with a 20, making it so that they know, then they shouldn't be rolling. In the same way, like you're going to get to a point where you don't care if they roll a 1, they need to know. And so like understanding that balance and the in-between, it's definitely the first case, way more than the second case that happens to me. And that's where I learned, if you're not ready for a 20, don't be ready for the 20.
Yeah, and also knowing how to give them information, and when they start digging, back off. So you give them the information they want, but you don't want them to feel like their questions are futile, right? You want them to ask the appropriate amount of questions and then feel like they're the ones choosing to move on versus, well, that's all we could get out of that person, which is really important because you want to make your players feel like they're in charge of everything that's happening and that every decision they make matters. And we always have people who over question, like, we're going to go in and answer all these questions or ask all these questions. We're going to get all this information. But as a dungeon master, you only have pre-planned so much information. So it's like, how do you keep giving clues? Do you just give them all the answers out at first? How long do you want to draw it out? It depends on, if you have a home group, it's a lot easier to know, to plan, because you know what they're going to ask before they even ask it, because you know them so well. But if you're playing at a convention or, with a random table of people, you really need to feel it out and kind of disperse the information more subtly than you would other groups.
And it can be like a good wine too, letting it age. And if you allow there to be time where you're dropping little things and watching your players and letting them kind of work through figuring out things so that they kind of lead themselves there, then the payoff in the end is probably going to be a lot more meaningful than, let's be honest, if you want to introduce a secret society, you can just have them, oh, you guys roll a perception check for me. Oh, you see that basement door is open and you hear weird things coming from down there. And so you can just have your players walk in on a meeting if you really want to, but kind of letting them follow the clues and letting them figure it out. Like, getting to that point at the end is going to be more of a payoff, and they're going to feel like they had more of a control in it, and like, we got ourselves to this point. We figured it out. We
Secret doors.
Yes.
Secret doors, man.
Secret doors are awesome.
And you can give them 3 secret doors. They will be excited every single time. I'm talking 3 in 1 session.
Oh my
They love
gosh. Secret
it.
doors, secret handshakes, secret passwords, all these things about secret societies, just so exciting and such cool things to play around with. And your players will be excited when they find these things out and are able to be a part of it.
Yeah, and really it's the puzzle, right? Like, that's what people really like. Secret Society is just another avenue for another puzzle. So I recommend going online, and even if it's like mazes. I just designed a maze for this map thing that I did. And I'd never done that before. And now what I want to do is overlay a maze and puzzle on top of the next city that we go in. I hope my girls aren't listening to this. Spoilers. But yeah, I'm going to like put a maze on top of the town's map so that I know the routes that things go to. And if they follow the clues within this, they'll get to a place. And when they realize that they've been maneuvering the way that I want them to maneuver, and like it's going to blow their mind. And I think that'll be really fun.
That's awesome.
So we've talked a lot about the purpose of secret societies. We've talked about how to introduce your PCs to secret societies. Okay, so let's say you've done it, you've worked through it, you've come up with a secret society, you've given the clues out there, and now we're at the point in the campaign where your PCs want to become part of that secret society. Let's talk about initiation. How do they become part of that secret society? What are some ways that there can be initiation into a secret society?
Well, now that they know about it, they would have to, like, I would make it so they have to research what the secret society is, and then they would have to do something that aligns with that secret society and do stuff to it, because a lot of these, you don't go, hey, knock, 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 I want to come in. It's really, you have to make yourself renowned and known, and they come to you. What is it that they're going to do that's going to draw the attention and inspire the secret society to come to you? Because that's what it's about, right? Like persuading them that they need you without outright telling them.
Proving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was my thing was, and it was something you had mentioned, Satine, that in every secret society is built for a purpose. Like they didn't just come together just because, and even if they did just because, they still have an express purpose. And no matter what your initiation is, I feel that it has to be proof of that purpose for the people that are trying to join it. Because the reason they created this society is because it is secret and it is in a way sacred to them, that purpose. And they don't want someone to join that they then have to question their purpose at some point, or just would completely shake things up. And maybe that's the long-term story, is that that's what your players do, because that's what players do. But I think that whoever is trying to join has to prove that they align themselves with the society.
And usually that's in giving something up or a vow, right? If a society has come to you, it's because you have done something that is aligned with them. You still have to prove that you belong there and that you choose to be a part of them. And it's almost, and it might be an exclusive thing. Like, we are allowing you to join us, but you have to do a thing. You can make it really nice and like, okay, now go and give of yourself to your community, or it can be kill this guy or kill this goat or go steal a thing. You know, it can be as dangerous or not dangerous as you want.
And with killing, if that is part of it, once again, don't just jump to the conclusion that that is only going to be for evil secret societies. There might be a target that they need eliminated, and it might be, listen, the things that we protect in the society, they are so incredibly important. We need to make sure, yeah, we get that this is hard, but we need to make sure you're committed and you're willing to do whatever it takes. We are still working for the greater good, but sometimes this is going to come up, and we need to make sure that when you're part of our group that you follow instructions, you follow orders. One of the things that you talked about that I loved was the vow. And I think that, you know, initiation, we think of it as like, this is how you get in, this is the introduction. But I think that a big part of initiation could be security on the secret society's part to making sure, well, once you're in, there's no getting out. We don't want you spreading our secrets. Like, if you're in, you're in. I thought of the unbreakable vow that Snape takes in the Harry Potter series, and how if you break this vow, and of course there's magic weaved into that, and you can have a secret society like that, but if you break this vow, you die. So if you break these secrets, if you try to leave, you die. And that could be magical, that once you actually do that as a person, you just have a heart attack, keel over, and drop dead. Or it could be
or you lose your arm or something. Like, maybe it's a
Yes.
tattoo, and then like that whole thing just severs your hand. Like, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and then there's no like, yeah, where's the tattoo? You're not like, what are you talking about? There's no secret society. Get out of here. Or yeah, just we will hunt you down. You taking this vow, you have to understand, if you try to leave, if you try to tell our secrets, you're dead. We're coming after you.
Yeah. So the vow is kind of like a baptism, right? Like, if you think of religion, you go through a thing that really, it's more than just a promise. It's a ritual that makes you believe more. Like, you become a part of it because everybody in it is there with you, and they're going through this thing with you. And
It's about immersion,
it's like a immersion, a threshold crossing. It's next level, right? And so you want your players to feel like their characters aren't just walking and going, okay, I'm in. It's, we are here with you. And so I would, if it were me, I would I would create a ritual of some sort and make it, you know, maybe it's anointing with whatever holy water, or maybe it's, you know, like just the crossing of a thread. Like, think of a marriage, right? So that's essentially, that's a ritual where you're initiated into a promise and a group with like minds, and it's just one and one, but there's still a thing, you know, where there's that crushing of the glass in the napkin. That's a thing, and everybody's there to witness it. There's the jumping brooms, I think, in some cultures. Lifting of the veil,
Pouring the two things of sand
Oh,
together
yes.
to create one.
yeah,
That's what I
fire,
did at my
lighting
own.
fires together, you know, and
Oh well, I messed up. I should have done fire. Go on.
Wiccan, you know, when you're doing a Wiccan ritual, you say something to the different spirits of the north, south, east, and west, and you kind of do this opening and closing. And I'm sorry, I love theology, and I study all that kind of stuff. So it's just really neat to do that. Like, go look up what other people do. You can read pretty much almost anything on the internet, and you know, there's some really simple things that you can do as a dungeon master to get your players a little more immersed.
there's a lot of real world inspiration that you can gain from and put into your homebrew games, and can simply just take and put a spin on. And yeah, it's exactly what we've been talking about this whole episode, and what we talk about all the time on this podcast is giving your world more depth, giving your world more of a real feeling. And who doesn't love in a D&D game some rituals, right?
Yeah. Somebody's going to get branded in the next season of Sirens. I don't know. Like, I'm so excited about that hand thing. Like,
once again, hopefully they're not listening.
It also made me think of, like, with the hand thing, an item that is worn. So you can be it a bracelet, or, I mean, necklace is much scarier of a thought, but even with the bracelet, you break it, that hand's coming off, because the bracelet's coming off in a very aggressive manner. But then that is also proof that you belong to that society. Another one is an earring with no clasp, nothing broken. So it's like an unbroken circle that's in the ear. So it can't be removed without something happening.
Yeah, that's cool. I used to have a permanent earring that was a promise, and I actually got it in a ritual for a thing. And the only reason why I don't have it now is because of the car accident. They had to like use pliers to get it off. But it was very special to me because of what it meant. And every day I would wake up and I would see it, or I would touch it, and it was a reminder, and it filled me. It was it's just a little tiny thing. And it just filled me with an idea. And that's what you want, is this. The Secret Society is an idea that's going to stay with your characters, and your players' characters, they have a purpose, they have alignments, but those things can change based on the vows that they make within the game.
Yep. I mean, it just reminded me totally of why I knew about the idea of the earring. One of the players died very early, so the only people that were able to raise them were people that the rest of the party would probably question. What happened and how they were raised, only that player knows. And what they need to do to maintain that relationship, only that player knows. And they would do a lot of side stuff related to that. And it's an awesome way to do, and to add that element of what in the world is going on. Who are these people, and you're connected? Do we trust you? Do we not?
Oh, and maybe one of the players is already in the Secret Society.
Yeah.
You don't even need to introduce it. Let the player kind of ease it out. Like, if you know you're going to be playing a long campaign with a group, you just have that player kind of drop hints. Why are they going off to meet with that person? Why, sitting around the campfire, why do you wear that clasp? Why do you touch it every morning at, 10 a.m.? Type of thing.
Why did that NPC through the DM pass you that note? And what does it say? I need to know.
Yeah.
All it said was, act like you're reading this and then tear it up and throw it away.
I may have done something
Those
like
are
that
the
before.
best.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that.
So, Satine, thank you for joining us on the Dungeon Masters block. We hope that everyone listening, that you've enjoyed our discussion on secret societies, and that at this point in the episode that you are just bursting with ideas for creating a secret society or multiple in your world, and you're ready to do that and get into it and start dropping those clues to your player. Satine, if any of our listeners would like to know about the things that you're doing, follow you, get in touch with you, and ask you about Secret Society questions or anything else, where can they get in touch with you at?
You can find me on pretty much all the social medias at Satine Phoenix. You can ask me direct questions, #AskSatine on Twitter specifically. You can go to mazearcana.com to see all the different shows that we're doing. If you want to join in the discussions, Rudy and I do a lot of one-on-one discussions and group discussions on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/mazearcana, and we do have spots available for our monthly games.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you for joining us on the Dungeon Masters blog.
Yes.
And we hope to have you back on again sometime in the future.
Thank you. You guys are lovely.
And with that, let's head to the mailbag of holding.
But they have been asking for their mail on a daily basis. It's all they're talking about up there.
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Welcome to another segment of the mailbag of holding, the place where we look at ideas, stories, and questions from you, the listener. I am here once again with DM Neil.
Yes. Yes, you are.
And today we are looking at an email from DM Sam. DM Sam writes in specifically to ask us about dungeon building and some advice on how to build a dungeon. He asked if there were any specific episodes that we cover that in. Well, first, an easy answer is yes, there definitely are. Specifically, episodes 13 and 48 are two episodes that you might want to go check out. But beyond that, to get into the specifics, DM Sam has created 4 elemental weapons, a scythe of wind, a staff of ice, a maul of earth, and a great sword of fire, and he wants to make dungeons surrounding each and every one of those items. So he is asking us for some ideas. So, Neil, what are some ideas that we have for these elemental weapons?
Play Zelda games. I say that, but that's not wholly untrue.
Not at all.
That would be very dependent on your players. And whether or not they have played them, and then we'll say, "Oh, I figured it out." But I mean, looking at those games would be a great approach. The other thing that I thought of right off the bat would also be hiding the elements in opposite dungeons. So having the Great Sword of Fire be in the Dungeon of Ice as an attempt to hide it. I thought would be another good approach to building those dungeons to make them a little bit more interesting. Like the farther you get in, for some reason there's less ice, and then you find the Great Sword of Fire in the middle of that, and as an attempt to hide such a powerful artifact from the world.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love the idea of the 4 elemental weapons. I think one of the things that I thought of immediately was if you really just want to take an easy route, you could just take the temples of elemental evils and just cater them to these 4 weapons, because those are some dungeons built around this kind of idea of the elements. But beyond that, if you haven't really built a dungeon before, an easy way to really do it is search Google for dungeon maps, for D&D dungeon maps, and you're going to find a whole ton of images that could spark your imagination in what kind of dungeon you want it to be. And you could literally take a dungeon map off of Google Images and use that for your dungeon, and then just going through, start planning out the rooms that are there.
The other thing that I would say, because of kind of the approach that you're doing, don't be afraid of falling too far into the theme as well. So if it's an ice dungeon, it's an ice dungeon, and it's ice creatures and there's ice things, and your players are going to know that, and it can also give them make them feel empowered to prepare more for what they're about to go into. So I think really getting heavy on theme would be cool, because you are using the 4 elements. The earth is going to be underground. Maybe the ice is inside of a glacier and it's built out. The fire is in a volcano, and the wind one is in the sky. I mean, I don't know. I lost it. I lost it there at that last one, but I'll save that for you.
Yeah, and with that, I would fully love, if I was a player, to be in searching for that weapon of fire and be fighting fire elementals throughout that dungeon. And I believe it is in episode 48, Dungeon Obstacles, that we talk about bosses being a integral part of dungeons. And I mean, I would expect there to be this huge flaming demon or something of the like to be protecting this weapon of fire, and the same thing with the other elements as well. So thank you, DM Sam, for writing in with that email. We hope that was a satisfactory answer, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Well, that is all we have for you today after we had Secret Societies starring Satine. Mitch, if they wanted to get a hold of us and let us know about their secret societies, how would they do it?
Well, they could reach us by email, and our email address is dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. Send us any email you want about Dungeons & Dragons. We'd love to hear from you. If you love listening to our show, please consider taking a few seconds out of your time, heading over to iTunes, and leaving us a review. We would greatly appreciate it.
Yes. And if you have a few more seconds and you want to follow us on Twitter, you can go over and follow us at DMS_block. That's at DMsBlock. Or you can head over to Facebook and follow us there as well. Like we always do, we have another Patreon member to shout out, and today's shout out goes to Jude Maloney. Yes. And Jude is a bronze dragon.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your support, Jude. Hey, Jude, we appreciate it. The Dungeon Masters Block is a proud member of the Block Party Podcast Network. Check out other shows like the GM Showcase, Geek Wars, We're So Bad at Adventuring, and of course more.
But that's all we have for you here at the Dungeon Masters Block, the place where we focus on the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing God,
killing characters,
and lowering the ego of all of the people at the table. I'm DM Neil, aka Joke Moniac. Good night and good luck.
And keep on dungeon mastering.
Creator of Celebrity D&D, is that correct? I feel like that one's wrong.
Celebrity Charity D&D. No, actually, I got in trouble for that. It's now Celebrity Charity 20.
Celebrity Charity D20.
You're almost there. Celebrity Charity20.com.
Ooh, man. Wow.
So close. It's a
You'll get
mouthful,
it,
but if you can remember it, it's completely worth it.
Okay. Creator of Celebrity Charity. Oh, close.
No, you have it.
Well, I know which blooper's going at the end of this episode. I did that in one take. You'll never know if that's true because of the power of editing.
Goodbye.